Hello darlings, I hope you've been well. Recovering from an eating disorder, undiagnosed, healthy weight. So thank you so much for that suggestion, Chloe.
Girl, let me tell you.
Before I got diagnosed with my eating disorder, and whilst treatment sorted me right out and I don't think I could have recovered on my own because I've made multiple attempts in my life to recover without any proper help. I'm not saying it's not possible, it totally is. What I'm trying to say is, obviously before I was diagnosed, I had an undiagnosed eating disorder for years and years. So my eating disorder started when I was around 12/13, and it was undiagnosed all the way up until I was 17. So that is around 5 years, I think, of an undiagnosed eating disorder. I remember the feeling of that invalidation so much. It was even more painful than having the diagnosis. It was the most painful thing of my life, knowing that I had it, but I didn't have the confirmation that I did. It was the most painful thing ever. In a way, getting a diagnosis was actually really freeing, because all of those years of pain felt validated. So for 5 years I didn't tell anyone. Telling the people around me was the most brave and the best thing I could have done. At the time it was one of the most painful things, and I felt like I'd made a mistake. I felt like my little secret was out. I felt so out of control. I felt like I didn't have anything in order anymore. I felt like a part of me and my identity was lost. And honestly, about the having an eating disorder and being at a healthy weight means nothing, because for a long time I was at a healthy weight, and for a long time I wasn't at a healthy weight. And both of those times that I was at a healthy weight and an unhealthy weight, I was still in the same horrible headspace. And if you really think about it, it doesn't take much brain power and many brain cells to recognize it's a mental health condition. I say this so many times, it's a mental health condition, not a physical one. And honestly, eating disorders have nothing to do with body type. You can't look at a person and tell they have an eating disorder. Just because someone's underweight doesn't mean they have an eating disorder. Just because someone's overweight doesn't mean they have an eating disorder. Just because someone's a healthy weight doesn't mean you're cured and recovered. That was frustrating for me, because when I started gaining healthy weight and eating again, people saying, oh, you look so much healthier, you look so much better. But in my mind, I was actually struggling more. I was in more pain, because that initial recovery process is even more painful than that restriction. Even though it's worth it and you need to go through it to get out of it, it is so painful. I do know, the feeling of trying to recover when you haven't been diagnosed, you look healthy, on the outside no one would know. I know that feeling, because you just want to feel validated by a diagnosis or by looking the part, which is such a misconception. Trust me when I say this, you do not have to look a certain way to have an eating disorder. It is a mental illness, not a physical one. What's even more dangerous about having an eating disorder at a healthy weight is that people think you're fine, but your insides are literally dying. Your brain isn't working properly. All you're thinking are distorted thoughts. You're so consumed in this disorder, and no one knows, or because you haven't been to the doctors and because you haven't told your family and friends, it is it's the biggest weight on your shoulders. So when you do, if you do, go professional, or tell your family, although it's so scary and probably the hardest thing you'll have to do, it is so worth it. And recovery is so worth it. And you can recover on your own without help, but I would recommend support system. Recovery is so hard, and I do think you need someone to talk to. And my DMs are always open, and though I'm not a professional, and I do believe you should have professional help, find your little community. Not a toxic community, a healthy recovery community. A lot of recovery communities, especially on Instagram, don't get me started on Tumblr and TikTok, are secretly disordered in disguise. So when you are looking for these recovery groups, be very mindful and careful. Fill your feed up with recovery, body positivity, love. Try to consume as much healthy content, online as you can. I just want to preach it so much more, because you just don't have to look a certain way, like, to have an eating disorder. This is like one of the main reasons I hate before and after photos, and like, not to toot my own horn, but I did a good video on it. It's called The Problem of Before and After Photos. When you see either a celebrity recovering from an eating disorder, a big YouTuber, any YouTube videos, you'll see a before and after photo, like a skinny and then like a healthy weight. This is the most damaging shit ever. The most harm it does is to the actual sufferers, because it invalidates us and makes us feel like we were never sick enough, even though sick enough doesn't exist, because your disorder will never ever stop. Your disorder actually like only wants you dead. It doesn't want you to like look a certain way. It wants to kill you. Like, if you think of it like that, it wants you to have the ugliest death ever. You can die from an eating disorder at a healthy weight. That's another misconception. You don't have to look emaciated to die and be in a dangerous position with your eating disorder. Like, one of my favourite YouTubers who does eating disorder content made a video that went viral called "The Photo Everyone with an Eating Disorder Needs to See." And whilst it's the most graphic and gory photo, and it is really sickening and horrible and like heartbreaking, it shows a woman, so sad, dead on her floor. She had bulimia. I don't even want to talk about like the details. It is so disgusting and heartbreaking. But she was a healthy weight. She died a really horrible death. I get so emotional talking about eating disorders, I'm sorry. And I've also done a video called The Ugly Side to the Eating Disorder, and basically talked about how unglamorous it is. So for any pro-Annas and stuff, like hair fall out, like your teeth get rotting. You don't even have to experience any or all of them to know like that you're sick enough, you know? You don't have to have your hair falling out in clumps. You don't have to have been hospitalized a million times. I've never been hospitalized. Like, you do not even need a diagnosis to recover from your disorder. I know for a fact I had my disorder for 5 years before it was diagnosed. That doesn't mean it was never there just because it wasn't diagnosed. Yes, you can't necessarily self-diagnose, but when it comes to like an eating disorder, when it's your whole life, like, what's scary about mental illness is that it can deny its own existence. So for literally those 5 whole years, I was like fully consumed by my disorder. Whilst I was fully consumed, it was telling me, you're making it all up, you're not sick enough, you're a fraud. Honey, don't listen to these thoughts. Like, if you know what I mean. Sorry, I'm really cold. You need to be constantly reminding yourself of the dangers, the side effects, the stuff that you're putting your body through. You are more than your disorder, and you deserve to live. You deserve to live a life that you can actually enjoy. Also, I just want to quickly say, before saying, oh, you need to go get a diagnosis, like it's something you need to do, keep in mind, before you get diagnosed, you do not need to be sicker to deserve help. This is something I didn't know. Like, before I went to get help, I felt like I had to be like physically dying to actually like deserve help. This, like, I only realized after I got help that that's such bullshit, and like I did so much damage, like that shouldn't have, it didn't matter, you know? Like, you do not have to get sicker to get help. You are sick enough. The desire to be sick is sickness in itself. You don't need to be hospitalized to get help. You don't have to be at your lowest weight. You don't have to look a certain way. You don't have to be in G-tube. Like, I used to believe that I had to literally be hospitalized to get help. I look like your recovery mum, your eating disorder recovery mum coach in this. Yeah, I'm always here for y'all, and like, I literally have been there for a long time of my life. Like, for all of my teen years, basically, I was going through this. Being skinny or whatever doesn't validate your eating disorder, if that makes sense. It doesn't mean anything. It's kind of just pointless and damaging for no reason, if that makes sense. You're not proving to yourself or to anyone that you're more sick. As much as living in this society, like, where before and after pictures are so normalized, dieting so normalized, disordered behaviors are actually very normalized. It's so fucking difficult to exist and be in recovery for your eating disorder in this world. But I know you can do it, and like, you're not alone. You are so loved, even if you don't feel it. Nothing good will ever come out of hating yourself. So ask yourself, when you are getting these compulsions to, restrict or any eating disorder behavior, ask yourself, what do I need in this moment? And get your needs met. You are valid, and like, even though you might not feel it, you are. Eating disorders are so common, so like, when your mind's like, oh, you're making it all up, don't listen to it, because that voice, you're making this all up, I believe triggered me more into I wanted to prove to myself that I was sick enough, because I had this invalidating voice in my head saying at all times, you're not good enough, you're not ill enough, you're making this all up. Don't listen to that voice. Listen to, you got the devil and the angel on your shoulder, listen to the recovery angel. Like, you don't need to be sicker to be deserving of help, honestly. I hope you believe that. No better time than the present to, start your recovery. I think it is possible to recover on your own. I just think it's way harder. I do, recommend you talk to your friends, your family, or get help if it's accessible to you. Just be aware that if you do get help, you don't need to get sicker to get that help. You're deserving of help right now. You don't need to change anything, you don't have to get worse. So kill your disorder before it kills you. Anyways, I'm sending all my love, and I'll see you in my next video, and I'm always here for you. You can get through this. I love you. I literally love you.